Welcome back to the truth of it all. As you will see, we are continuing with the third law of On. I'm sticking right to the basics. We just left off with the last thing. Your child hitting 3 years old is the both scales. Your child is learning the world. The child is measuring the world. The child knows more is better than less when it is coming to goodies and so on and so forth. And you're learning everything about the world. And that forces the parents into the Aries, the Ram stage. Now you're negotiating with toddlers. And the toddlers will eventually use your own logic against you and win. That is their mission, and they will win. Even if they only win once, they will. And trust me, that'll be the day you'll laugh and you realize you're Aries and Ram and you're no longer Taurus the Bull. Anyway, what it means, the next stage is 5. We're following Fibonacci, right? 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. With that said, 5 years old, we introduce them to society. At 5 years old, your child starts school. Even in Sumeria, or Sumer, I should say, not Sumeria, that's a silly word. Sumer, school started at 5. You introduce your child to starting. They're brand new, fresh, and innocent with no social identity up to that point. But they become one. They get one. And that is the key for society, to introduce society. That's why it's called Virgo the Virgin. And what does it mean for all of mankind? It means around 13,000 BCE. Humanity, because of the inequitable distribution of wealth, society started. There were the very rich and powerful, and there were the weak and meek. Think about it. If I make knives and you make blankets, and that group of families over there controls the water sources, they can protect each other, hire people to protect them. Boom, boom, boom. They all get rich and powerful, and they get to enforce the rules, and the rest of us are at their mercy. And that's what happened. Society started. So society, the introduction of society started around 13,000 BCE. And again, I'm not going to get you straight up on what the exact number is. I'm just, I don't want to blow your mind. The guy has too many facts. But you can imagine, it's around 13,000 we went to that. Now, the next stage, and this is the weird one, but for the human, right? We know that society got introduced for humanity in the age of Virgo, the maiden, Virgo the Virgin. But the next stage is Leo the Lion. Now, we were prideful. That's why we call the group of lions of pride, because we were prideful in the age of Leo. We were supposed to be. Why? Because you're 8-year-old. At 8 years old, follow the Fibonacci. 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. At 8 years old, your child now becomes controlled with their hair, whether they want it short or want it long or want it coiffed a certain way. They become their mane, the lion's mane. They take control of their mane. And the children are very prideful. If you've ever been a soccer parent driving a group of kids to practice, or baseball or ballet or whatever, you've got kids acting up in the backseat, all proud of themselves and all very prideful and roaring out loud and laughing out loud, and they're living on the tops of the world. They're very prideful. That's what we call a group of lions of pride. But something bad happened to humanity during the age of Leo the Lion, and we'll get into this in applied physics later. But we were hit by 7 comets. There are 3 writings. One doesn't tell you how many. They just say that 2 cities were destroyed. But the other 2 say precisely 7. And the third one tells us exactly what each of the 7 comets did. With the third one being God's kingdom come that sent humanity into 1,000 years of darkness and winter. If you look at our climatological records, that happened when? Age of 11,000 BCE. Look at the climatological records. I think it's 10,890 BCE on the day the temperature dropped 4 degrees. One day. And we know what day of the year it was. It was Halloween. That's what Halloween was. It was the day the earth turned black and orange. The sky turned black and orange. The sky was on fire the day the earth ended. And it happened on October 31st. When? Well, on October 31st, we happened to be in the middle of the torrid meteor stream. However, there's no big comets or meteors to hurt us because we took them all out one time. There's a clear path through that we go through in May, and then again, right in the very heart of it, October 31st is the average when we go through it. But it happened to be on October 31st that we commemorate to this day, the day death came knocking at your door. And did you hide and run away, or did you treat them, as in medically treat them? And that's where we get the habit of treating. Trick-or-treaters, some who come in the form of death, and some who come in the form of frolickers, because both happened. There was both a lamenting of the destruction of the earth, and there was a celebration of those who survived. But bad things happened here. People thought that God was mad at us for all these megaliths we built, these prideful megaliths, and that God threw fireballs at us. And that was the tale that spread. God did this because we were prideful, and many of these megaliths were buried around 9000 BC after the comets. And we started to rebuild. The first thing we did was bury the megaliths, okay, and dismantle everything we could, and that includes the pyramids, and that includes the Sphinx. The Sphinx was a lion staring at the lion on the spring equinox. That was very prideful, and its face and head were just permanently disfigured. It was Khufu who came and recarved the head into the likeness of the Sphinx. The likeness of the Pharaoh, and that's what makes this current Sphinx. But it was a lion staring at the lion going back to 10,000, 11,000 BCE, and then it got wiped out by comets. Okay, and that's when the Sahara started forming. We'll get into the specifics of that later. I don't want to blow you away, but bad things happened to us in the age of Leo the lion, and that's where we get the phrase "pride goeth before a fall." We were prideful, and we got slam danced by God. We now know through modern science that we just went through a comet path. But we have the religious faction starting now. This is where On gets twisted to being a very violent, mad God that threw and punished us for being prideful. Remember, Sodom and Gomorrah happened not because they were wicked, they were prideful. That's why. And there was the age of Leo. And more happened in the age of Leo, but we'll get into that. A flood happened that ended the Younger Dryas mini ice age that started around 10,890 BCE. And it happened with 9,700. By 9,600, the ice age was over. But Atlantis remained under ice and never recovered. Atlantis was green before then. A tidal wave. Something hit the green that burned a hole right into the ground, right through a 2-mile sheet of ice, and all that ice went blasting into the Atlantic Ocean. The tidal wave, when it hit Northwest Africa, was 800 feet high when it hit the coast. We can find the chevrons, the sand ripple that each wave leaves. Well, you can do a mathematical formula to figure out how high the wave was that left this, and the wave at its peak was 800 feet high. That left those chevrons in Northwest Africa. And that's what started the Sahara Desert, by the way. But that's what also put Antarctica underwater. So bad things happened in the age of Leo Lion. The sun burned us twice. The sun roared like a lion, and that's why it's a lion. The sun roared like a lion, so did your son at 8 years old. Get it? They both match. All right, that's enough for this episode. We'll pick it up from there. Thanks for tuning in to The Truth of It All. As you see, I'm just telling you the truth of it all.